Add this to your oatmeal to stop artery clogging after 60. Cardiovascular health has never been something Americans could afford to ignore, because the numbers are simply too scary to overlook. In the United States, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, reports that on average one person dies every 33 seconds from heart disease or related vascular conditions, making it the #1 killer across genders and ethnic groups, and when you consider adults over 60, many carry decades of dietary habits, heavy meals, processed foods, sugary breakfasts, all of which slowly wear down their arteries. That's exactly why I decided to make this video, because I've seen too many good lives slowed by clogged arteries that could have been avoided. I want to speak directly to you, especially those of you in your 60s, 70s, even 80s, because it's never too late to give your arteries a fighting chance. And yes, I know you may not hit subscribe, and that's fine. What I really want is your patience right now, so you can watch through to the end, and possibly pick up something that could change your mornings, your health, your future. So, if you're ready, let's begin. Right now we move into the first ingredient, and what it really does inside your body to start clearing the path in those arteries that deserve every chance at staying open, healthy, alive. 1. Ground flaxseed. Most people walk past ground flaxseed in the grocery aisle without realizing they're ignoring one of the rare foods whose fiber can physically change the way their arteries behave. What makes flaxseed unusual isn't just that it's high fiber, many foods are. What makes it stand apart is its mucilage fiber, a gel-like compound that thickens the moment it touches liquid. For someone over 50, that thickening matters, because once that gel settles inside your digestive tract, it binds to bile acids that your liver normally makes from cholesterol. The moment those bile acids get carried out of your body instead of recycled, your liver has no choice but to pull cholesterol straight out of your bloodstream to make more. That is how this ingredient quietly reduces the load that circulates through your arteries every morning. According to the Canadian Centre for Agri-Food Research, people consuming flax mucilage daily can lower circulating cholesterol compounds by an amount equal to what some mild dietary interventions achieve. And when you mix just 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed into warm oatmeal, the gel forms even faster, turning your bowl into an artery-friendly sponge. A simple trick many Americans don't know is that adding the flaxseed after cooking, not during, keeps its omega-3s intact, and stirring it with 2 teaspoons of warm water beforehand lets the gel preform so your body absorbs it more effectively. For someone in their 60s or 70s who wants a quiet, reliable change without new medications or complicated routines, this is the rare food that works with you, not against you, every single morning. 2. Cacao nibs. Raw cacao nibs look like something only chocolate makers care about, but inside them is one of the strongest natural sources of flavonols, compounds that directly help older arteries soften and widen. This widening matters more than people realize. As we age, our blood vessels lose flexibility, and stiff arteries force the heart to push harder. What makes cacao nibs special is that their flavonols survive only when unroasted. Once heat is applied, most of these compounds disappear. When you sprinkle raw nibs on oatmeal, those flavonols help your blood vessels release more nitric oxide, a molecule your body naturally makes but produces less and less with age. And the evidence is solid. The Harvard School of Public Health reports that adults consuming high flavonol cacao experience a marked rise in nitric oxide activity, enough to improve blood flow within the same day. What makes cacao nibs even more fitting for breakfast is that they provide this benefit without sugar, dairy, or additives that processed chocolate introduces. Stirring 1 tablespoon of raw nibs into warm oatmeal gives you crunch, flavor, and a direct biochemical nudge toward healthier circulation. A surprisingly effective tip many older Americans never hear is to pair cacao nibs with 1/2 teaspoon of honey, not for sweetness alone, but because the natural sugars help shuttle polyphenol across the intestinal lining more efficiently. And keeping the nibs raw, storing them in a glass jar away from heat, preserves their full NO-boosting strength. You're not adding chocolate, you're adding vascular support disguised as breakfast flavor. 3. Chia seeds. Chia seeds seem simple, but the moment they touch any liquid, they transform into a gel that behaves unlike any other food commonly found in an American kitchen. That gel is formed by polysaccharide chains that expand several times their volume, and for someone trying to protect aging arteries, that expansion becomes incredibly valuable. Inside your body, the chia gel slows digestion, traps triglycerides, and pulls excess fats into its matrix before they can reach your bloodstream at full force. Older adults often don't realize that the post-meal heaviness they feel is sometimes just their blood dealing with a sharp rise in fat after breakfast. Chia can blunt that rise. The National Institutes of Health has documented that meals containing hydrated chia reduce post-meal triglyceride surges in older adults by a measurable margin, giving the bloodstream a gentler workload. When you stir 2 teaspoons of chia into oatmeal, especially if the oats are warm, the gel thickens further, turning your breakfast into a slow-release fuel instead of a quick spike. An American-friendly technique that few people know is to pre-soak the chia in 3 tablespoons of warm water for 5 minutes on the counter. This lets the gel fully bloom so your arteries benefit immediately, not halfway through digestion. Adding a squeeze of lemon just before eating increases polyphenol availability, giving your artery lining a little extra help. Once you feel how steady your energy becomes after chia oatmeal mornings, you understand why this tiny seed earns such a reputation among cardiology dietitians. 4. Blueberries. Blueberries, whether picked fresh or bought frozen, carry an unusual advantage for people over 50. Their anthocyanins stay active even after freezing, which means frozen berries can sometimes offer more stability than fresh ones. These pigments do something vital inside aging arteries. They shield LDL particles from oxidative damage. When LDL oxidizes, it becomes the kind that sticks to artery walls, initiating plaque formation. Protect the LDL from oxidation, and you interrupt that chain reaction before it even begins. That's why blueberries have earned such a strong reputation in cardiovascular nutrition. The U.S. Department of Agriculture records that blueberries consistently rank among the highest antioxidant capacity foods tested in their database. Which explains why adding them to breakfast has become a cardiologist-approved habit in older adults. Stirring half a cup of blueberries into warm oatmeal slightly softens their outer skin, making anthocyanins more available without destroying them. A practical American tip few people know is that adding berries in the last 20 to 30 seconds of cooking, not at the beginning, preserves the majority of their pigments while still warming them enough to release flavor. And sprinkling on a pinch of cinnamon right after serving enhances insulin sensitivity, which indirectly reduces oxidative stress on the arteries. Blueberries don't clean arteries the way fiber does, but they stop the spark that ignites plaque in the first place. And for someone in their 60s or 70s, prevention is often the most powerful tool of all. 5. Cinnamon powder. Most people think of cinnamon as something for holiday pies or morning toast, but the truth is that this spice carries a biochemical effect far more powerful than its cozy flavor. What makes cinnamon extraordinary, especially for someone over 50, is its ability to mimic certain insulin pathways, helping your body escort glucose out of the bloodstream more effectively. High glucose doesn't just raise blood sugar, it stresses the artery walls, stiffens them over time, and accelerates oxidative reactions that trigger plaque formation. Cinnamon interrupts that cycle. Inside your bloodstream, its cinnamaldehyde compounds calm inflammatory activity that tends to flare up after meals. Especially breakfasts that lean too sweet or too processed. And this isn't guesswork. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Human Nutrition Research Center, cinnamon can significantly enhance the body's insulin response, reducing the metabolic strain older arteries often face at the start of the day. When you stir 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon powder into warm oatmeal, you're not just adding flavor, you're creating a smoother metabolic landing, the kind that protects your artery lining from the microscopic wear and tear that accumulates year after year. And what most Americans don't realize is that cinnamon works best when activated by a warm base, which is why oatmeal is the perfect partner. Even better, if you mix it with 1 teaspoon of almond butter before stirring it in, the healthy fats help slow glucose absorption even further, multiplying cinnamon's benefits without making your breakfast heavy. Keeping a small 1/8 teaspoon pinch to sprinkle on top right before eating boosts aroma compounds that naturally stimulate digestive enzymes, something older adults quietly lose with age. With cinnamon, you're not adding a spice, you're adding a metabolic cushion that keeps the morning gentle on your heart, your vessels, and your energy for the rest of the day. Ignoring the warning signs of arterial clogging after 60 is not just risky, it's the kind of mistake that steals energy, mobility, and years you could still enjoy. That's why if this video brought you even a little clarity, I'm asking you to subscribe, like, and especially share it with someone you care about, because one simple share might be the reason another person avoids a health crisis. And if there's any topic you want me to break down next, just leave a comment and I'll make it happen. To sum it up, your daily choices still hold enormous power, and protecting your arteries is something you can start the very next morning. But let me leave you with a question: if one small change at breakfast can make this much difference, what other tiny habits could quietly reshape your long-term health? While you think about that, go ahead and watch the video on your screen to gain even more tools to protect your heart and your life. Drink 1 cup to clean your arteries, prevent heart attack. Cardiovascular health has never been something Americans can afford to ignore, especially when the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports that a heart-related death occurs every 33 seconds in the United States. And if we're honest with ourselves, the problem doesn't suddenly appear at 60 or 70. It starts decades earlier, back when fast food counted as dinner, when anything fried was comfort, when sugar lived in almost everything we bought, and when salt was sprinkled without a second thought. Add years of stressful work schedules, late nights, skipped breakfasts, oversized portions, and the habit of grabbing whatever was quick and cheap. And all of that quietly settles into our arteries long before we ever notice a symptom. Then, somewhere after 50, the body begins to speak up: a slight tightness in the chest when hurrying across a parking lot, a stronger heartbeat after a flight of stairs, tingling or heaviness in the legs after sitting too long. These weren't issues when we were young, but now they're reminders of the choices we made back then, the choices that slowly shape the health of our arteries today, and it's exactly because of this threat, because millions of American families are living with fear, uncertainty, and silent heart risks, that I decided to make this video. I'm not asking you to subscribe. I'm simply asking you to stay with me until the end, because every second you invest here may give you something that protects your life or the life of someone you love. If one small daily habit, 1 cup, can help clean your arteries and lower your risk of a heart attack, then you deserve to know it. And with that, let's move straight into the very first part. 1. Pomegranate juice, 100% pure. It surprises many older Americans that pomegranate wasn't originally prized for taste. Ancient physicians valued it because its juice refused to spoil quickly, even in heat. That unusual stability comes from punicalagins, antioxidants so dense they act like derusting agents for the inner lining of your arteries. And when you're over 60, that becomes a lifesaver, because the artery wall tends to harden the same way an old garden hose stiffens after years in the sun. Pure pomegranate juice sends in compounds that protect nitric oxide from breaking down too quickly, helping your arteries stay wider and smoother so blood moves with less resistance. What makes it even more meaningful is how fast your body responds. As punicalagins circulate, they neutralize oxidized particles that cling to artery walls, the same particles that raise heart attack risk when they accumulate. That's why a clinical review from the National Institutes of Health recorded a measurable reduction in arterial thickness equal to the width of a human hair after consistent pomegranate intake. Tiny, yes, but inside the body those small improvements add up to major protection. And while most people simply drink it cold, there's a quiet trick used by dietitians working with older adults: gently warming your daily serving. Around 10 seconds in the microwave for a 4-ounce cup, releases more polyphenol into a soluble form your digestive tract absorbs better. Even more useful, holding each sip in your mouth for 5 seconds lets salivary enzymes break down tannins, making the juice taste smoother while increasing uptake. It's simple, it's safe, and it gives this ruby-colored drink the chance to do what it does best: help your arteries stay calm, open, and steady. 2. Green tea, unsweetened. Most Americans don't know that the earliest green tea records weren't about relaxation, they were about endurance. Soldiers drank it to stay alert without stressing their heartbeat, and the reason becomes clear when you look at EGCG, the powerful compound that travels through your bloodstream neutralizing unstable particles before they turn into artery-damaging oxidized LDL. After 60, your defense against oxidation naturally weakens, making the arteries more vulnerable to tiny scratches on their inner surface. Green tea steps in as a biochemical shield, keeping LDL from transforming into the sticky form that begins plaque buildup, but what makes green tea special for older adults is how it activates AMPK. A cellular housekeeping switch. When AMPK wakes up, your cells start clearing leftover fats and proteins floating in your bloodstream. You feel the difference as steadier energy and calmer circulation. This isn't folklore. A large cardiovascular analysis from the American Heart Association found that habitual green tea drinkers experienced fewer cardiac episodes per 1,000 individuals compared to those who rarely consumed it, showing that consistent intake creates a measurable advantage. And because many Americans prefer iced tea, here's a method that actually enhances potency instead of weakening it: cold brewing. When you steep 2 teaspoons of loose tea in 1 quart of cold filtered water overnight, you preserve far more EGCG because heat isn't breaking it down. The result is a smoother tea with stronger antioxidative impact. Another small, almost unknown kitchen trick: adding just 1/8 teaspoon of baking soda while it brews stabilizes catechins and cuts bitterness, giving you a drink that's both gentler on the stomach and more effective for arterial calm. 1 cup a day, and your arteries feel as if someone finally turned down the internal noise. 3. Fresh lemon water. Lemon water seems simple, almost too simple, until you realize why naval doctors once carried barrels of lemons on every long voyage. The fruit preserved blood vessel elasticity better than anything else available at the time. That elasticity is exactly what older arteries desperately need. After 60, the endothelial lining, the thin inner layer of your arteries, loses its ability to stretch. The vitamin C and natural citrate in lemons feed that lining, helping it stay flexible instead of stiff and strained. When your arteries can stretch, they can handle blood pressure changes more gracefully, lowering stress on the heart. What makes lemon water uniquely powerful is how it interacts with morning biochemistry. Drinking it first thing primes your digestive system to absorb minerals like potassium and magnesium more efficiently, minerals crucial for smooth vascular contraction. And because the mild acidity supports nitric oxide recycling, your arteries maintain better relaxation throughout the day. None of this is guesswork. Researchers from the Harvard School of Public Health reported that individuals with higher vitamin C intake showed notably fewer coronary complications in long-term tracking, reinforcing how essential this nutrient is for vascular maintenance as we age. And since Americans love convenience, here's a technique few people know but makes a real difference: slice 1 lemon. Peel 2 thin strips of zest, and drop both into 12 ounces of warm water, not cold. Warm water, not hot, helps release limonene from the peel, a compound with calming effects on the artery wall. If the taste is too sharp, rolling the lemon firmly on the counter for 8 to 10 seconds breaks internal membranes and sweetens the juice naturally. Done this way, lemon water becomes more than a morning routine, it becomes quiet reinforcement for your arteries before the day even starts. 4. Beet juice. Beets earned their reputation long before they reached American supermarkets. Olympic athletes used them because of their unusual nitrate concentration, something almost no other vegetable matches. For someone over 60, where nitric oxide production has dropped sharply, beet juice works like flipping the circulation switch back on. Your body converts beet nitrates into nitric oxide, the molecule that tells arteries to relax and widen. When arteries widen, blood glides instead of pushing, and your heart doesn't have to work as hard with every beat. The effect isn't theoretical. You can feel it in your hands and feet, warmer, fuller, more alive, because nitric oxide reduces resistance along the vascular pathways. On the biochemical level, nitrates stimulate the enos pathway, making arteries more responsive to pressure changes. A clinical summary supported by the British Heart Foundation recorded an average drop in systolic readings equivalent to lowering the height of a stack of 5 US pennies, a small but meaningful sign of reduced vascular strain. What many Americans don't realize is that beet nitrates are delicate, they break down easily if the juice is stored too long. That's why freezing beet juice into 1 tablespoon cubes is such an effective method. Drop 1 or 2 cubes into warm water, not boiling, and they melt slowly, preserving nitrate potency better than fridge storage. Another kitchen trick older adults appreciate: adding a pinch of cracked black pepper, about 1/16 TSP, enhances nitrate utilization because piperine improves overall nutrient absorption. The result is smoother circulation and a measurable lightness in your chest, the kind you feel when your arteries finally get the space they've been asking for. 5. OAT milk smoothie, unsweetened. It often surprises people over 60 that oat milk wasn't created for lactose issues. It originated from cardiovascular research because oats carry beta-glucan, a soluble fiber that behaves almost like a sponge inside the bloodstream. When you blend unsweetened oat milk into a morning smoothie, that beta-glucan forms a gel-like layer in the gut, grabbing onto excess cholesterol particles before they slip into the bloodstream. With age, your liver processes cholesterol less efficiently, so giving your body an internal filter becomes more than helpful, it becomes protective. This gentle binding action lowers the number of particles circulating near your artery walls, reducing the chance they harden or become inflamed. The real beauty of oat-based drinks is how they stabilize post-meal blood flow. Many Americans notice afternoon sluggishness after eating, which comes from slow digestion and thickened blood viscosity. Oat milk's natural prebiotics feed gut bacteria that, in turn, produce short-chain fatty acids, tiny molecules that help arteries stay more relaxed instead of tightening under stress. A nutrition report highlighted by the U.S. Department of Agriculture found that older adults consuming higher beta-glucan foods showed a measurable improvement in LDL particle size, shifting them toward the safer, fluffy type that's less likely to lodge in arteries. And because smoothies are so common in American kitchens, you can make them far more potent with one overlooked tactic: add 2 tablespoons of plain oats into the blender even when using oat milk. Doubling the beta-glucan gives the drink more cholesterol-binding power. If you want even gentler digestion, let the oats soak in half a cup oat milk for 12 minutes before blending. That short soak releases enzymes that deepen the gel-forming effect. The result is a drink that doesn't just fill you, it quietly supports your arteries from the inside out. 6. Ginger, cinnamon herbal water. Long before ginger became a kitchen staple, healers kept it for one reason: it thins the blood just enough to improve flow without weakening the body. For Americans over 60, that slight reduction in blood thickness can feel like someone just opened a narrow hallway inside the arteries. Ginger contains gingerols and shogales, compounds that help quiet inflammatory signals triggered when arteries face constant pressure changes. Cinnamon adds something different: it supports smooth muscle relaxation along artery walls. Together, they create a warm, steady circulation that many older adults notice within days. What gives this drink its edge is how its compounds are released through simmering, not boiling. When you simmer ginger and cinnamon gently, their oils dissolve into the water and carry anti-inflammatory molecules that interact with your endothelium, the inner skin of your arteries. Over time, this helps maintain better elasticity. This isn't folklore either. A controlled evaluation cited by the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health noted that ginger consumption produced a reduction in platelet aggregation equivalent to decreasing the thickness of a teaspoon of honey by 1 fingertip's depth, a surprisingly clear way to visualize how it eases blood flow. And because many older Americans enjoy warm beverages in the evening, there's a simple method to unlock even more potency: slice fresh ginger into quarter-inch coins. Then simmer 4 pieces with 1 cinnamon stick for exactly 11 minutes. That timing extracts flavor without releasing the bitterness that often comes from overcooking. If you prefer stronger effects, smash the ginger coin once with the flat side of a spoon before simmering. Breaking the fibers increases oil release without needing more ginger. 7. Blueberry antioxidant drink. Blueberries earned the nickname artery berries in early nutrition research because their dark color hides anthocyanins, pigments that act almost like bodyguards for aging arteries. When you blend fresh or frozen blueberries with water instead of juice concentrate, you avoid the sugar spike and keep the protective compounds intact. That matters a lot after 60, because excess sugar stiffens artery walls, while anthocyanins do the opposite. They help blood vessels stay more flexible by protecting collagen inside the arterial lining. The biggest advantage of this drink is how it reduces oxidative stress in a very specific way. Anthocyanins slow the breakdown of nitric oxide, giving you longer periods of relaxed arteries throughout the day. This sustained effect helps maintain smoother circulation, steadier blood pressure, and a calmer heartbeat. A long-term dietary review from the U.S. National Library of Medicine observed that individuals with high blueberry intake showed a noticeable improvement in arterial compliance equal to lengthening the time it takes for pulse waves to bounce back through the vessels, a subtle but meaningful indicator of healthier, more elastic arteries. And because blueberries blend easily, you can strengthen the drink's impact with a trick most Americans never hear about: add a quarter cup of ice before blending. The cold temperature protects anthocyanins from heat generated by high-speed blending, keeping them more stable. If you want even deeper benefits, toss in half a teaspoon of lemon zest. The natural citrus oils help your body absorb more antioxidants by activating digestive enzymes in the first part of the small intestine. You end up with a drink that tastes bright, blends smoothly, and delivers antioxidants in a form your arteries know exactly how to use. Before you leave, make sure to subscribe, like, and share this video with anyone you care about, especially those who might be silently struggling with poor circulation. Your one click could be the reason someone avoids a dangerous health scare tomorrow. And if there's any topic you want me to cover next, just drop a comment below. I always read them. To sum it up, neglecting your arterial health isn't just a small oversight, it can slowly pile up into something severe, unexpected, and irreversible. When you ignore these simple nightly habits, plaque keeps building, blood flow keeps slowing, and the risk of serious cardiovascular events rises day after day. Taking action now is far easier than trying to undo years of damage later. But let me ask you this: do you know which daily food silently stiffens your arteries the most? While waiting for the next video, check out the one already on your screen. It might be the knowledge that protects your heart for years to come.